Hello and welcome to How to Evolve Your Customers' Buying Experience. I'm David Dragich, Marketing Account Executive with World Synergy, and I'll be your host today. Thank you so much for joining us. We are really excited for today's event. Before we get started, just a few notes. This webinar is being recorded. At the conclusion of the webinar, all registrants and attendees will receive an email with a link to a highlight video. The video will cover all the major talking points from the discussion. You can use this video as a reference tool, whether with colleagues, on social media, etc. Now, if you're just joining us, all participants are on mute. However, you will notice at the top in the middle of your webinar screen, there is a Q&A button. Please, at any point throughout the webinar, feel free to chime in and add a question. We do have time at the end of the presentation to review those questions and add them to the discussion. Now, without further ado, let me start things off by introducing our panelists and special guests. First off, Marketing Coordinator with Kurtz Bros Incorporated, Ms. Tracy Ward. Second, our Senior Strategic Business Development Manager for BigCommerce, Ms. Chelsea Chardelli. And third, Strategic Growth Analyst with World Synergy, our moderator, Mr. Steve Crisfalusi. At this point, Steve, why don't I let you take it away and share with our attendees a little bit more about World Synergy. Steve?
Welcome, everyone. We're really glad that you were able to join. Excuse me. We're really glad you were able to join us today. And just a little bit of background, World Synergy has been working with small and mid-sized businesses for over 20 years now. And our approach has always been to integrate technology, marketing, and application solutions for our clients to help them reach their goals, help them thrive. And over that time, we've really witnessed firsthand the evolution of websites, e-commerce, integrating with ERPs, as well as the evolution of the customer buying experience. And it's always been a focus of ours to help our clients navigate these trends to be successful. We all know COVID brought about some big changes, especially in the business world. And, things like remote workforce, supply chain changes, and more specifically, the way that we buy and sell. And while the trend over the past couple of years has always been moving more towards e-commerce and that online presence, 2020 accelerated that. Consumers in 2020 spent over $800 billion online. And that was a 44% increase or triple the average increase year over year. And that's a pretty amazing number when you think about it. Second quarter alone last year saw over $200 billion spent online. So what are these statistics telling us? It tells us that the mindset of the buyer is shifting and that we as businesses need to be prepared for that and adapt. COVID, the pandemic, really forced businesses that had never sold online before to adopt that model and sell their products or their services that way. And they found they could be successful doing it. In fact, 55% of B2B leaders that were surveyed said that prior to the pandemic, they relied on in-person selling alone with no other model involved. And when they were asked again, as the pandemic has been opening, only 21% now responded that that's how they are relying on selling, is only on in-person. And 80% of the B2B leaders also said that they're planning on keeping that digital selling model, even as things open back up. So the trend is there, or the trend isn't even a trend anymore. It's becoming the norm. And it's really being driven by their customers. Decision makers were exposed to a whole new way of doing business, of making purchases. They were able to see inventory real time. They were able to see pricing. There was an ease of use involved in them working with their partners, their vendors, and making these purchases. And that's what's driving a lot of this change, is the way that people are buying, and that experience is forcing businesses to make that shift. So we brought together two individuals today to talk about their unique stories with online buying, online selling, and provide some additional insight into this accelerated trend and this new norm that we're seeing today. So I'd like to introduce Chelsea, the Senior Strategic Business Development Manager from BigCommerce, and Tracy, the Marketing Coordinator at Kurtz. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Chelsea, working with BigCommerce, what can you tell us about the e-commerce and the online trends that you've seen over the last couple of years, and really how that kind of differs from what we saw over the past 12 months?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you both and for having me on. As you mentioned, I'm a Senior Business Development Manager. I've been at BigCommerce for about 4 years now, and so it's really interesting to see the growth that we've had both pre-pandemic and over the last 12 months. I specifically verticalize in our B2B strategy and helping bring on B2B technology partners, but about this much familiar with the B2C market as well. So I'm going to share a few insights from both.
Great.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know a bit more about BigCommerce, simply put, we're an e-commerce platform. We really sit at all stages of growth, but we focus on mid-market merchants, and we look to build, innovate, and grow their success online. I will throw out a phrase that if anyone's in IT or development, I can see their eyes roll now. But what I think makes us a leader in the industry in this e-commerce space is our open SaaS model. So we really are giving customers sophisticated enterprise-grade functionality, performance that comes with a SaaS model and that support. And then we also have a full set of open APIs. That's really for customizations. So Steve, you had mentioned, how do merchants connect their ERPs and PIMs and all of their other systems together? So those open APIs allow our technology and agency partners like World Synergy to really connect the existing systems that you already have today, like those ERPs, content management systems, and even front-end technologies. And then one thing that I'll say that again kind of makes us the leader, and then I'll talk a little bit more about what's really important, which is what do we know pre and post pandemic, is I think our secret weapon really is that you can do B2B and B2C all on one platform. That's really unique to the industry, and that's really unique to how we help manage success for our merchants.
That's awesome.
So spiel over. So what are we seeing in the pandemic? I think, starting with pre-pandemic, what do we know? And I'm going to put the lens of the B2B classes on, and then I'll focus on B2C for just a smidge.
Of course.
So see what you had already said. We know that the age of B2B buyers is dropping. An interesting stat that we recently came across was nearly 50% of B2B buyers are actually millennials. And so I think about pre-pandemic, I hate to say this, but I am a millennial. I'm not calling a salesperson. I'm not, even pre-pandemic, I wasn't necessarily going in the store. Instead, I was doing things like shopping online, researching online. And what we know from B2B buyers is they're expecting that consumer-like experience, right? They're expecting to be able to actually do research online, find it, and then purchase, right? Complete their purchase online.
Right.
And then something
Their consumer behaviors have trickled over, and it's now becoming a part of their B2B behaviors. And that's the experience that they're looking for on all fronts now.
That's right. That's exactly right. And you know, just kind of hitting home there is on the B2C side of things. Another thing that we've seen is a dramatic increase in B2C consumers actually doing the research on Amazon, feeling comfortable, and even on websites, but feeling comfortable actually going direct to that manufacturer or direct to a distributor to actually purchase that product, not just doing it via retail, via, you know, your Targets and your Walmarts, but actually going to the manufacturer or distributor to purchase. So those are all things that we've seen pre-pandemic, and I think that the idea of that direct-to-consumer play plays really nicely into the idea of having a B2B and B2C website all on one kind of link. We've seen a massive increase in that direct-to-consumer play during the pandemic, but some interesting things that we've also seen come out of the pandemic, and I won't take up too much time because I know Tracy's really the star of this show. Everyone wants to hear more about a real life scenario. But some of the things that we have seen is an increase in what we call BOPIS in the industry, which is buy online, pick up in store. 195% increase, right? Massive. And so what does that actually mean? What that really means is if you're a B2B or B2C, merchant, it's limiting your chances to actually sell product through product placement or browsing, right? So what you really need to understand is, how do I take this idea of BOPIS, implement it for myself, but also create the systems around it that alleviate the kind of the loss of that in product, in store buying experience. So how do I make that shift, right?
Right.
Again, so yeah, I think I could probably go on a million times over about BOPIS. I think the one anecdotal story that always I find fairly funny from pandemic times is that my 60-plus-year-old parents actually know what that means, have apps downloaded on their phone and are using it, right? So It's not even just millennials, it's really that mental shift of, I am going to purchase online and I'm going to pick it up, pick it up curbside, or I'm going to, purchase online and get it 1 day or 2 day delivered, right? It's just a complete shift from all ages and from all aspects.
And that's some great information there, where it's not just the younger generations, but even the older generations, as you brought up, your parents who are now embracing the idea of making purchases online. And that's that shift that we're seeing now in both the B2B and B2C community, is that has become such the norm in our personal lives, and the pandemic made that shift come alive more in our professional lives, and it's not going away. It wasn't just a one-time thing while this was happening, that it's here to stay.
That's exactly right. And I'll give one more little anecdote and then I'll pass it over. And I think you'll hear from Tracy a little bit more about this, but from a BigCommerce perspective, we've seen huge increases in certain industries over the pandemic that haven't dropped at all, actually. Some of these are even 200% increases year over year. in GMV, or gross merchandising volume. So the top 5 that we have seen over the last 12 months are from sporting goods industry, and these aren't these aren't going to be shocking, because if you think about the correlation of what we all did in the pandemic, I personally, I am probably a supporter of all of these, but sporting goods, and that includes outdoor activities, toys, and things of that nature as well. So those of you who have kids feel this. Health and beauty, since all of us have to be on Zoom these days. Vehicle and auto parts, and then again, not shockingly, one of the top industries that we've seen grow is home and garden. It's a huge surge that we have seen over the pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and I can't think of a better segue than that to bring Tracy into the conversation here.
Perfect.
Yeah. So Tracy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and Kurtz and what Kurtz does?
Yeah, sure. So for those who don't know, Kurtz Brothers has been around since 1948. So we're celebrating our 73rd year in business. We are a local to the Cleveland area leader in waste to resource. And part of that, our niche really is turning waste streams into premium, high quality landscape supplies. So over the years, we have grown, our territories to include 9 store locations that service both the homeowner and the contractor. We sell anything from topsoils to mulches, composts, anything you need for your lawn and garden. I've been with the company. I've been lucky enough to be with the company for the past 13 years and have been blessed to be part of the marketing department for the past 7. So I have seen, the growth, from 4 locations to 9, from brick and mortar to web. And I've been a part of expanding our marketing and digital presence as well. So it's been a blessing. It's home and garden is a fun industry to be part of. It's very, tumultuous depending on the weather, but throw a pandemic into it and we're all just kind of like, ooh.
Absolutely. So because you've been able to see the evolution of Kurtz Brothers over the years, and you to use your words, from brick and mortar to web, why don't you kind of expand, or can you expand a little bit more on what that journey was like and what led you to online in the first place?
Sure. So back in my early days in the marketing department, we were operating on a WordPress website that had very little e-commerce functionality. And my supervisor and I at the time were both, supporters of growing, and the company too. Our focus was on growing the retail market, and we had to identify, what's the best way to get people first aware that we sell to them, and then the easiest route to get them to convert into an order and into a customer. So we looked at, our stores, which are great. We looked at how we were doing our marketing, and, we identified that, digital was really where we needed to shift our spend. And we did. And then it was like, so we're driving them to a website, but the checkout process isn't the easiest. So at the time we sat with a couple different companies and we researched what our best options were. We looked at anything from just, updating and customizing the WordPress website to building a new website from the ground up, completely custom. And then one vendor actually presented BigCommerce to us. And we identified that BigCommerce was our best opportunity to give our customers the experience we wanted them to have. At the best investment price too. So we kind of transitioned over to BigCommerce, and it, the rest is kind of history. I mean, it's been a super success ever since.
Yeah.
Super. It was. I mean, at the time, it was probably a nerve-wracking decision to make and a big change to have to commit to, but it has proven to be the best one for us so far.
Great. Yeah. So, a big leap to go from WordPress to, a full-blown kind of e-commerce was was it just a kind of a no-brainer at the time, or was there pushback, or how did that transition go?
It wasn't, there wasn't a lot of pushback. It was, hard to wrap your head around people wanting to buy mulch or topsoil online. Like, it's not something you would have back then really thought people were like, I'm going to hop online and order my landscape supplies. Some people, some people were like, no, they want to come into the store, see the product, feel the material. But we did it, and it's the transition was easy. It was, luckily enough, we had a vendor helping us at the time, but it was simple enough, where we got up and running, before the season started. And as soon as it went live, it just was, the orders rolled in. Customers didn't seem to have a problem purchasing it online. And as Chelsea said earlier, when e-commerce shifted, people didn't trust anybody who wasn't like a major company, the Walmarts, the Amazons, things like that. So small mom and pop shop or landscape supply center, we were worried that people were going to be concerned about ordering that material online, but it wasn't the case.
Got it. So
I'll tell a quick anecdotal story.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you a question based on some of that, Chelsea. So please go right ahead. Yes.
This is not going to answer whatever question you're about to ask me, but just giving proof in the pudding. I am the quintessential millennial purchaser who re-landscaped my house over the pandemic, and didn't actually go in. I bought from a mom and pop shop, unfortunately not Kurtz because I don't live in Ohio area, but they didn't have online purchasing, the place that I wanted to go. And I actually went a different route, different place, because I wanted to be able to purchase online and not have to worry about, honestly, going into the store during pandemic times. And the ease and comfort of my own house, I was able to purchase, and in 2 days it was delivered into my driveway, many tons of rock. So just proof in the pudding that, I think there, there is that market out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Chelsea, Tracy said that, that the decision to move to a more robust online selling presence, that there was some uncertainty around that of, will people really want to buy our products online? How often do you see that come up from your perspective, where businesses are just unsure whether, or they don't think that their products are the right fit for online sales?
You would be wildly surprised at the breadth of industries and products that we have and host on BigCommerce.com. I think one of the most unique ones that I have seen is direct consumer and B2B portal for sleep apnea machines. I think that's a kind of an odd one that you wouldn't think, oh, I'm going to shop online for my sleep apnea machine.
Right.
But from a broader sense, I think there has to be some consideration for how consumers are buying, how your B2B buyers want to purchase, and doing a little bit of that research, right? Tracy and Kurtz were, some of the first in their industry to be able to go online, but many have followed. And just to see the numbers and the growth that they have had in doubling down on the marketing spend in the e-commerce space has been fruitful for them, right? And in the sense of, I think anything could be sold online. It does couple with some caveats, right? Just because you have a website doesn't mean that they will come, right? You need to actually have a marketing strategy, and you have to have some of that spend and some of that foresight to really understand how to be able to make that shift. And it's not making a shift from in-person, from sales teams to online. It's the combination of having both, right? I think Tracy, you had mentioned that you have that in-person presence, you have that e-commerce presence, but still a lot of the shoppers called in, right? So it's meeting those buyers where they want to purchase, but making that leap is not difficult. You can crawl, walk, run, while still testing the waters. And I think that would be my advice, right? Split it, right? It's just like split testing. If you're only doing offline, do a little online, see what happens. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Tracy, in that light, then, what has the online presence and the e-commerce presence meant for you and for Kurtz, and what was the impact for you, last year during the pandemic?
Yeah, so the e-commerce presence for us has been good from day one. The first pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, we saw double digits in sales growth each year. From the first year to the second to the last, it just was a constant increase in revenue, an increase in traffic to the website and conversion on the website. I think we all took a big breath in last March and kind of held it until we really knew what was going to happen. It was scary. It was, we were unsure on what people were going to spend their money on. Landscaping is a luxury for some, and with people not working and things like that, we were concerned that it was going to affect our industry. And in some instances it did. Some of our customer segments were affected, but our B2C was wildly successful for it being a pandemic. We faced challenges like many other companies did. We shut our stores down to foot traffic, meaning people had to call in to order or call when they were on site to pay for the material they were picking up. That increased our call volume exponentially. We were seeing, thousands of calls come in a day, paired with, not having full staff. Some instances, locations we were short because people had to stay home with their kids, or we were staffing for the season and COVID hit, and that's scary as well for people. World Synergy knows this because they are our IT partner, but we had issues in May where our internet would go out, meaning our phone systems went down. That leaves people not able to order, not able to get in contact with anybody. So we were really blessed and fortunate to have had already established an e-commerce platform and had put the money and the marketing behind it to get it optimized for people to pull it up in searches and things like that. So we were lucky enough to have already had established that platform. And over the course of the year, we saw just massive growth. Last April alone, we made enough revenue in the month of April that matched the entire year prior. So 2019's annual revenue total is what we made in last April, which is massive.
It's crazy.
And it's funny because we always wondered, what part of the market we really captured, like what piece of the retail pie we had.
Yeah.
We found out last year pretty quick it wasn't as big as we thought it was. So we now know what our potential is for the market. But it was, for as scary of a year it was a wildly successful year for our B2C segment.
That's awesome. I mean, your story about April alone is incredible.
Yeah.
So based on that, would you say that your competitors, did you get a lot of business because the competition that you face have I guess dragged their feet to embrace that e-commerce ideology, or what do you think kind of helped along those lines?
I definitely think it's our e-commerce platform and the website's ease of use compared to our competition. And this is kind of something I pride the company on and myself on, is I think we're at the forefront of the shopping experience online for the landscape supply industry. When we first implemented BigCommerce, I did a comparison of competitors. Nobody had a platform like we did. It wasn't a shopping experience. It was a content-based website like we had with WordPress. It was a form fill this out, we'll call you back, we'll get your order placed. Or it was just, they listed their products and you got to call in to order. Us putting ourselves in a position to do a more robust shopping experience, I think kind of inspired the competition to do it as well. So over the years, we've seen more and more people switch to a shopping platform, an e-commerce platform. However, I still think, and this is biased, and forgive me if I'm gloating, but I think ours is superior to everybody else's. We put a lot of money and time into really thinking about what our customers want, the experience they have with us, not just in the store, but online as well. So over the years, we've customized and improved the experience to tailor it to what they need when they shop. And I'm not quite sure our competition's on the same page yet. I'm hoping none of them are on this webinar because they will be soon. But it's a point of pride for us that, yeah, I think we're a step ahead of our competition with it.
What do they say?
Go ahead, Chelsea, please.
I was just going to say, what do they say? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Tracy, what are some of the, you mentioned, you've kind of grown your customer buying experience, and that really helped contribute to the success that you've seen with your online sales. What are some of the things that you've done to focus on that customer buying experience?
So we've really kind of used Amazon, the one-click shopping experience, as an inspiration. I think at this point they set the bar. So we've optimized the checkout process so that it's easier. We've improved the appearance of the website and have implemented some tools and additional options to increase the services we offer, and as well as help improve them finding information when they're checking out. One of the biggest projects we just did, and actually World Synergy helped us do it, is so when a couple years ago, we acquired a new company and they had their own existing e-commerce platform that just wasn't as user-friendly on the back end. And as on the front end, we wanted to improve some things, but because it was so complex in the back end, it just proved to be super difficult. So we actually recently merged the two into one platform. So there were some customizations with that because they had, different option sets and things like that. And then we also onboarded a new sales and ERP system. And we, with the help of World Synergy, were able to integrate our BigCommerce website into the ERP system, which just creates one easy process. There's no more manually entering orders or trying to tie the two together. That's probably the most recent customization we've done with the website.
Awesome. Now, Chelsea, you mentioned, BigCommerce being, an open SaaS, which allows for the ease of that integration. But what are some of the things that BigCommerce does to focus on that buyer experience and making sure that, it's not just about putting your products online, but making sure that your customers are able to do the things that they want to do and have that experience that are going to bring them back again?
Yeah, absolutely. So from a merchant experience, our customers, Tracy said it best, right? Being able to integrate those mission critical systems and the processes and workflows that they already use today, especially with customers that are maybe new to online. It's a scary leap, right? So being able to take the core systems that you're already doing, ERPs, an ERP is a really big one, order management systems, shipping is another big one, and being able to, I like to say auto-magically, integrate those already into your e-commerce, right? Making it that one-stop shop. And then kind of on the buyer side or the merchant consumer side, we see, from a BigCommerce perspective, we see being able to shop on channels and list on channels. So being able to easily integrate into Amazon and eBay and even things like social channels, Facebook and Pinterest are huge, huge systems and supports to be able to draw traffic both to your website, but also really understand where the consumers are shopping and to be able to capitalize on that. From a BigCommerce website perspective, I think another thing that's really helping the buyers are the combination of being able to use promotions. We have a new promotions engine, but being able to use promotions and discounts to attract them. And then being able to, for more on the B2B side of things, but being able to pay how they want or how they need. It could be paying on terms, that could be paying via credit card or offline payments, however they can, however they need to pay, or however the merchant and buyer have negotiated those contracts. So I think that's a huge piece. And then, something that we have seen, kind of going back into a trend, something that we've seen that's interesting on top of all of this is the expectation of personalization. So the idea of content and commerce. So being able to personalize your experience through content or through a login. And then some kind of fun, funky new technologies that you would see elsewhere, but we're now seeing a lot in the consumer and B2B retail space is augmented reality. So in the furniture space, I can place that couch in my room and see it in 6 different colors. The customer support models are really changing, having chat instead of having to call in or email, having video chat, which is that one extra step. So we're seeing a lot of really interesting trends come out of and technologies coming out of the pandemic.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. The augmented reality, here, see your bookcase, see your couch in the room. That's a really cool thing. So BigCommerce is starting to look at those things and integrate those things into the platform and allow for the people using the BigCommerce platform to take advantage of those different resources or tools.
Yeah, we're trying hard to bring in as many partners, customizations, and integrations as we possibly can to really make it easy to get online fast. And again, utilize those products that you're already utilizing, right? We're best in breed for e-commerce. And there are a lot of great best in breed ERPs or merchandising platforms that connect in to really make it a holistic experience.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. That's so cool. So, Tracy, just kind of tagging off of that, then, obviously, you told us the journey about moving from WordPress then to online sales, and you talked a lot about what you've done to enhance that buyer journey and that buyer experience. But just in terms of your e-commerce platform as a whole, what are some things that have really helped, or in your opinion, have helped the success of Kurtz selling online that you maybe didn't have in place at first, but have brought into the fold as things moved forward that have been beneficial and really helped create the revenue generating site that you have today?
I think that internally, the platform itself has been just so easy to use. You don't have to rely on a programmer or a company to do, things on BigCommerce. I can create product pages. I can create landing pages. There's, it's super simple to use. And I think that's a huge benefit, because a lot of times there are websites out there that, and platforms out there that are just super complex, and you really have to know a code or anything like that to get it done. And BigCommerce is just so user friendly. It's organized well. It's simple to understand. If you can't figure something out, the support that they offer is, insanely good. We use it all the time when I have a question or when I can't figure something out. It's been a good resource. I think that the options they offer for creating a shopping experience for your customer are also really ideal and really, really great. Like, they've put a lot of time thinking, how people need to tailor their websites for their specific industries. I think that their features and things like that have allowed us to create an experience that generates more revenue, closes more orders. It's not complicated. We're not seeing people drop off. We're not, losing sales. There even are things on there like the abandoned cart nurturing that we have utilized so often over the years. And we've converted a lot of abandoned carts into sales because of it. As Chelsea mentioned, the promotions and the coupons and things like that, the automatic promotions too, and it's just neat. You put something in your cart, it tells you that you just need to put one more thing in your cart, you get this percentage off. So it's really helps the selling process without having to be hands-on. Right. I just think, the website has done wonders for us over the years. It's so easy to use both for us and for our customers. And I think that's why it's been so successful.
I can't tell you how many times I've been victim to the just add one more thing in your cart and you'll get
right
extra percentage off.
I think we've all been there.
That's right. One thing Tracy, you had mentioned was your transition from WordPress over to BigCommerce. It's really interesting that we've seen quite an uptick in merchants who had to make really fast decisions at the beginning of COVID, right? They weren't necessarily on the forefront like you guys were. They weren't already selling online. So not only did all of their channels shut down, they now have to make a really fast e-commerce decision. And a lot of customers, new customers that we've seen that 12 months ago made decisions that were easy, right? I need a website and I need a way to take orders. And over the 12 months, like you and many of the industries that I mentioned before, they saw massive growth, right? And so those e-commerce websites or their e-commerce websites really didn't suffice. And so we're seeing this resurgence in having to re-understand and re-research what makes sense for the long run. And so really putting that effort in now to understand, okay, this is not going away. We have a website now, but how do we grow it exponentially? And how do we continue to grow it exponentially? And so we are starting to see, as I said, the resurgence of especially B2B merchants really take that leap and say, okay, I'm doing B2B, now I'm going to do B2C, now I'm going to add those promotions in, now I'm going to, have that robust marketing spend that will get me to that next level.
Absolutely. So we have a couple of questions that came in. Looks the first couple look to be directed to you, Tracy. So you told that fantastic story about your April of 2020 and what you did. How were you able to handle the volume and the fulfillment to have so much come through in 1 month like that?
Yeah, so it was a surprise for us all. I mean, last year we were booking out days and weeks and a month prior to normally when we started booking out for deliveries. When we book out for deliveries, it just means all of our available delivery time frames are booked for that day. So when we were doing online orders, at the time we had a call center, which is another blessing we had back then. But they manually entered every order that came in from BigCommerce, because this was prior to us connecting the new sales system to the website. They manually entered every order into the sales system. And it was a lot of management at the time between capacity with transportation and things like that. So it was long days is how we handle it. Long days and lots of hands.
I'm sure. So after your experience in the first quarter of last year, with your April and everything like that, what were some of the things that Kurtz chose to invest in or enhance about their e-commerce platform, moving forward?
Sure. We merged the two websites, as I had mentioned earlier,
Right.
which was
Yep.
no-brainer, because anybody in the marketing department is going to tell you it's so hard to have to manage two separate websites when you're both selling the same materials, essentially. So we merged the two websites, and that was an investment. We also, the integration, as I spoke on earlier, was probably the biggest invest decision to have made. It frees up the time and the generates orders in our sales system in real time instead of waiting for someone to get in for their shift and manually enter the order. Another thing we're looking at right now is a scheduling tool to help us with the time frames and availability of trucks, and that's going to both connect our sales system to our ERP or to the website again, but it's just going to be for the availability of trucks, and that's not something we've ever had before. Normally, they just select a date and tell us a time frame, and we hope that it's not booked up. Going forward, it'll be actual availability shown on the website, which is something that we're rolling out hopefully any day now, and we're super excited about it. It's another kind of growth of the website for our customer.
That's awesome. That's very cool. So I know we're getting close to time here. So before we jump to any additional questions, I guess I wanted to just see if there were any kind of final words that either of you have on the topic here today, in terms of this this trend moving to greater online sales and selling online and providing your customers with more innovative ways to do business with you. So I don't know, Chelsea, if you want to jump in first.
Sure, yeah. What advice would I give? What would I take away? I think the main thing is if you're new to online, or you're looking to try and expand your online presence, it's not easy. It's not a one snap of the fingers and you're good to go. You have to really think about the processes you have in place today and how you can make the transition, but putting some effort behind it, putting a project plan together, and putting a little bit of budget behind it. I think together, those things, and then coupled with talking to an agency like World Synergy, I think that's a huge value add and benefit to help you lay out that project plan, help you lay out that budget, and really support you through that process. Makes a world of difference. But it's it's not rocket science. A lot of companies have already done it, and it's not a snap of the fingers, but you're also not building out an entirely new business. You're really just supporting the business you have with a new channel. So I guess my advice is take the leap of faith.
Absolutely. So in light of that, Eric's question actually kind of ties right in with what you just talked about, Chelsea. So, Eric's wondering if we're noticing, traditional brick and mortar businesses adding e-commerce as a result of the pandemic.
Yes, 100%. That's actually one of the largest transitions. We call it bricks to clicks. And it genuinely is brick and mortar stores, both SMB, mid-market, and even large enterprise stores that just haven't sold online. They might have an online catalog, but you still go into the store or call in to pay. We've seen a huge increase in that. And, on top of it, again, really interesting industries that are seeing success. I had mentioned the sleep apnea machine. Another interesting one that we've seen a lot of success with that you wouldn't normally see is agriculture. Farmers that are selling their products online, direct to consumer, and to their distributors or to their box retail stores.
Huh. No, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tracy, if you have any kind of thoughts that you'd like to share as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is, and this is something someone gave a piece of advice someone gave me earlier in my career. It was actually about public speaking because I used to get so nervous to get up in front of somebody. And they said the hardest things that you do in life are going to be the one, like decisions to make or changes, are going to be the ones most worthwhile. I think that if you are afraid to take the leap into e-commerce, don't be. It's not a dying art form. It's not going away. If anything, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And if you don't do it, your competition's going to. I definitely think that you need to consider your customers and how they shop, and just don't waste time thinking about it. It like Chelsea said, it's not always easy. It's not it's not an easy decision to make, but if you're unsure, partnering with a vendor like World Synergy, there are resources out there. They're there to help. They were a blessing for us. Just do it. Don't wait. Just do it.
Love it. Love it.
Just do it. We should have had Nike sponsor this webinar.
That's right.
Exactly.
Maybe on the next one. Well, folks, I think I speak for everyone. This was absolutely great. Tracy, your story is truly inspirational and a bit of a Cinderella story. I mean, that April stat, that's absolutely incredible. So with that being said, this will complete and be the conclusion of our webinar, how to evolve your customers' buying experience. Tracy, Chelsea, thank you so much for your time and contributions.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody enjoyed the topic and the conversation.
Absolutely. So in conclusion, that is the end of our webinar. We thank everybody for attending and viewing. If you'd like to contact us with any other additional questions or more information regarding, taking that next step with your e-commerce platform, Steve's information is located on the slide here. Additionally, feel free to follow us on the social channels, specifically LinkedIn, for other great B2B and B2C type content, and to stay apprised of other upcoming educational webinars. Thank you again, and have a great day. Take care.